Hey everybody, welcome back to The Pursuit. I'm Jeff Hutchin. This is John Saporov, where we're on the relentless pursuit of truth and transformation, and we've got a cool show lined up for you today. We're excited to introduce you to our guest. This is a guy that was introduced to us by one of our counterparts, and he's kind of a big deal. I was going to say it right now.
He may be the biggest deal that we've had. Not to disparage anybody that's come on. He's certainly a bigger deal than us. Okay. Let's say that. We can agree there. I just realized I'm about to put my shoe in my mouth.
Yeah. Well, he's this young man, Jason Epps, is joining us today, and Jason's got quite a background, man. He's only 28 years old, but he's got a story that we're excited to feature today. As a matter of fact, before we bring him on, we've been talking about a component of the pursuit of what we're trying to build out, our contributors. Do you mind talking a little bit about that and what the heart is behind that?
You guys have heard us for a while now talking about this evolution of the pursuit. We're 3 months into it already going to 2.0. But the evolution of what we're trying to do, we're realizing, we know that it's not about you and I, Hutch. This is about building a platform to support the diverse expression of worship, whatever that means, right? So we've known for a while, clearly the podcast and us, getting on with a guest and having discussion about their life, about some topic that they're passionate about, certainly part of it. But man, this week we had a contributor launch a blog that is fantastic. We're looking at the platform as well as a place for artists like Eppic to come on and drop a song from time to time. Drop an interview. I mean, we're going to ask Eppic, to go out and interview some artists that are out there in the world that we don't know much about. You and I don't know a lot about music. You probably know more than I. But I think that it's going to be great to have Eppic on board and to really set the prototype for and the expectation for how contributors are going to contribute to this platform over the next week.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I introduced him as Jason Epps. He's known otherwise on a stage name, I guess I could say that, as Eppic. And he's a hip-hop artist, Christian hip-hop artist. And I hope, let's just bring him on. Jason, hey man, welcome to the show. We are glad you're here with us today, man. And thank you for taking a little time to join the pursuit.
Nashville, Tennessee, right? Direct.
Correct. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
You bet. And we've been talking to Eppic now for a couple weeks about his role to be a contributor and moving forward. He's going to play a huge role in what we're doing with the pursuit. So we're excited, and we thought, what a better way to kick off Epic's role within the pursuit by having a podcast, having an episode here where we can just kind of get to know each other. So Jason, actually, you're from Colorado Springs originally, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, so my parents lived in Washington, D.C., and I was born in D.C. and then moved to Colorado when I was 2 years old. And then from there until, probably 2021, before I left to go to California, I lived in Colorado my whole life.
Right on, right on. So what was it like, man? You go from, sleepy little Colorado Springs, Colorado, into the Mecca, the big city, man. What was that all about? And I know we're kind of introducing, because part of what we wanted to talk about your testimony, and I'm sure that's kind of where we're headed with this. Talk about the transition. Why LA? Why'd you go there? What took you there? How did it all come down?
Yeah. Oh man. So back date-wise, I don't really know the dates. Let's say 6 years ago. A couple of friends of mine, one of my best friends, Tyler Ward and Alex G, we went on tour together with 3 of us and then 10 other people on the tour with us. And so we got to go to LA and experience it. And through that, so I was in the YouTube world prior to that. And so I met a couple of YouTube artists through that connection. And so when I met them in LA, all of them kept saying, Dirk, you got to move to LA. You got to move to LA. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know, LA is a huge city. That's the last thing that's really on my mind. But all my other friends, they were on board for it. So when we got back from our tour, we sat down and we chatted, and everyone was on board for it, except for me. My thing was, I wanted to make sure that we had a game plan. I wanted to make sure I was financially stable, all these different things, just because I was living in such a comfortable space. And then I was just sitting there, I was just praying. I was like, God, I don't want to make the move unless you give me an answer to do so. And he just didn't give me an answer. And it was one of those learning moments for me where I just had to just trust that he was going to be in it when I made that move. And so, yeah, it was me and my friend Alex, John, Prez, Tyler, all of us made the move out to LA. And man, the change was major, because you go from a quiet neighborhood to just a very loud city where the culture is amazing. Just the environments are completely different. Traffic is, I don't really want to talk about the traffic, but it was definitely a switch for me, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the lead up to LA. So you're a young man, you're living in Colorado Springs. Let's back up. How'd you get into music and hip hop? How did that all come down?
Yeah, so when I was 11, my dad was watching the 8 Mile movie. I'm not sure if you've seen the Eminem's movie 8 Mile. He was watching it in the living room. And I just happened to walk in, sit down, and I caught it during the moment. It was like halfway through the movie when Eminem was freestyling against Exhibit, which I don't know his character's name during that. But I sat down and I don't know, there was just something about it that just really drew me in. Because you should know, just context-wise, before I even saw that movie, the music I listened to was like Backstreet Boys, maybe like a little bit of, Kid Rock, but it wasn't hip hop. It wasn't hip hop. It was like boy bands and all the pop music. And so when I heard Lose Yourself for the first time at the end of 8 Mile, when the credits started rolling, I was blown away, because I'm like, the fact that you could tell a story through rhymes, you can do so much through hip hop than you can do in pop music, R&B, anything like that. And so from then, I ran upstairs. I started writing my first rhymes. My first rhymes were about Kobe Bryant and hash browns, literally. And then fast forward 3 years later, my dad took me to an Eminem concert, which was my first hip-hop concert that I ever went to. And so from when I was 14 and on, I just fell in love with hip-hop since then.
So besides the fact that you just admitted that you were a Backstreet Boy, now you were 11, but it kind of sets up this question for me, which by the way, I love that about you. I love that. But that is, so you fall in love with this genre called rap, right? And and clearly even the story of 8 Mile, there is this bit of, man, it's sort of a poetic expression of, generally where it came from was this urban expression of frustration. And the term street cred even was originated within the rap culture, hip hop culture, and it was all about where you came from and what you've done. Right? At some point, did you feel like, man, I've been listening to the Backstreet Boys. I need one of these, a story to tell. I need to go to prison. I need to whatever. Talk about that, or did you even feel that pressure? Was it just sort of this amazing opportunity to express yourself in a new way you'd never thought of before?
No, I felt that pressure. Honestly, I felt that pressure up until, man, maybe like the end of last year, top of this year. Just because, so when I first started, I was trying to copy all the artists I was listening to. So once I started getting into hip hop, I was trying to do 50 Cent style. I was trying to do this Jay-Z style, Young Jeezy, just everyone that I was listening to, I was trying to mimic their sound in a way. And it just wasn't connecting. Like, even though I thought, I'm like, man, I nailed that, I could just tell when I showed it to my friends that it just wasn't sitting with them, even though they were just saying, good job, man, pat on the back. But then you find out later that they actually like, actually, you weren't that good. And so I'm like, okay, thank you. But there was a lot of just trying to copy their sound, because if it worked for them, then it must work for me. And it wasn't until later I realized that I had to put my own story into my music. Like, if you're going to try to copy, you're not going to last long, or you're not going to get anywhere at all. And so the biggest thing for me was knowing that I grew up in a predominant white neighborhood. And so I may have had 1 to 2 Black friends as I was growing up, and then a little bit more when I got into high school. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't know I didn't know how to communicate with like the Black culture, or even communicate in the hip hop culture whatsoever. Just because, again, like you said, I listened to the Backstreet Boys. I love Pokemon. I just love all the nerdy things. That was just my upbringing. And there was no gang violence in my life. There was nothing where like a gun was pointed to my head. Like, I have a good friend of mine who he shared his story with me not too long ago. And I was just sitting there. I'm like, that all happened to you while you were here in Colorado. And I just didn't have that. And it made me kind of start thinking about, man, should I even be in this? Because I don't have a story like a 50 Cent where you're on the street selling drugs or anything like that. But fast forward until now, as I was saying, how that has affected me up until this point is the fact that before I left to go to LA, I didn't have a story. But when I went to LA, that moment was when my story was being shaped, because I was being brought out of my comfort zone and put into a place of discomfort and a place of an area of unknown that it literally forced me to just be able to learn and to grow out of a space that wasn't at my parents' house. That was something I was used to for 20 years. And so getting to the point now, a lyric that's in one of my recent singles I released, Dethroned, at the very beginning, from the get-go, I just said, I didn't grow up in the projects, but I'm still a work in progress. And that was just a very a free moment for me, because it was just openly admitting I did not grow up in the projects. I want that to be known. As much music as I put out from now to the beginning of it, I never admitted that. Like, I was trying to have this hardcore nature, this hardcore appearance that I was trying to portray. And all of it was just like, that isn't me. That isn't me. And so to admit that was just very freeing.
You know, I'm glad you brought up the opening phrase of that song, Dethroned, which I want to get into, and I want to spend the rest of our time talking about. Because, matter of fact, let's just go ahead and listen to a few of those opening lines from that song.
I didn't grow up in the projects, but I'm still a work in progress. You want the product, not the process. Had to be broken down and cold pressed. I'm better than I ever been. I'm like no other. For the last few years I've been in the furnace. No longer the person with serpents wrapped around my jugular. Why me giving the microphone to jokes and fools go, but to chumps and wolves and sheep.
So Eppic, what you said there in those opening lines, you said, I didn't grow up in the projects, but I'm still a work in progress. You want the product, not the process. Had to be broken down and cold pressed. I'm better than I've ever been. I'm like no other. For the last few years, I've been in the furnace, no longer the person with serpents wrapped around my jugular. Man, those are some hardcore, deep meaning words. Talk to me about that. What you had mentioned to me when we were preparing for this discussion, you said, man, Dethroned is kind of the theme of my life over the last couple of years. Talk about that and elaborate for us. What was going on in your mind when you wrote these words? It's powerful stuff, man.
Yeah, well, first off, I appreciate that. The thought process going into the song, the word dethroned was given to me about 2 years ago. God just placed it in me when I woke up one morning, and I was just dealing with just so much. In terms of those lines that you just read, I was just dealing with a lot of fear and not feeling like I was saying what I really wanted to say. And so one of my favorite lines, the one that you read about no longer the person with serpents wrapped around my jugular, I just felt that I was allowing so many negative thoughts and allowing just myself to be, if there was something I wanted to say, I was like, no, you can't say that, because if you were to say that, you're going to step on people's toes. You need to just play it safe, keep it safe, and then let's just work from there. But it's like, no, like I feel like I have things that I want to discuss. So like even a song that I released prior was a song called The Healing, and it was a message that had to do with like sex trafficking. But in my mind, I'm thinking, don't write that, because people really don't really want to hear that. Just keep it in this lane where it's just something where it's very easy to digest. Don't make it complex. But I'm like, again, I need to get this off my chest, because if I don't, then what's the point of doing this in the first place? And so that whole first section of that was just me pretty much saying that, you know, one, I already mentioned it before, I didn't grow up in the projects, but it's like you want the product, not the process, where people want to continue to just consume, but they don't really care about your process and how you got there. But it's like, that's why I wanted to share. And then being broken down in cold press was just my whole process, that during this whole Dethroned season, I've really had to be just broken down to just nothing, and then be rebuilt in order to be able to find my voice, and to be able to get into the place that I'm in now, where I can just boldly express where my stance is on certain things in my life, and to boldly express, because that needs to happen if chains are going to be broken. And I just found that was another freeing experience for me.
Yeah, I want to share this verse with you. And John and I were talking about this before we turned on the cameras. And there's a translation of the Bible out there. I'd never seen it before. It's called the Passion Translation, which is really cool. I'm excited to start to get into it a little bit. But I found this verse, and I love your response to this, Eppic. It's in Romans 6:12, and it says this: "Sin is a dethroned monarch. You must no longer give it an opportunity to rule over your life, controlling how you live and compelling you to obey its desires and cravings." Is that adequately describe kind of what was going on in your world at the time? Is there's these things that needed to be pulled down in order for him to be elevated? Is that a good way to describe it? That's
on point. That's literally on point, because in the just the process of it all, the reason, especially like the serpents wrapped around my jugular part, was that I feared when I was writing it, what I was dealing with, and I got freed from, thank the Lord, is that, so I was dealing and battling a lot with pornography. So I was dealing with it for about 3 years, and it was something that really put me in a space of, man, if I'm dealing with this, I don't think I deserve to even have this platform. If I'm dealing with this right now, I don't think I'm a leader at all. And just so many thoughts, it's just like, yeah, you're nothing. And I just kept believing those lies. And then from there, it just became one thing after another, where it was just these voices just kept pounding me, saying that you're garbage. You know, like there was other verses that I never released, where it just felt like a piece of scum, and just all these things that built up within me. I just got depressed from it. And this was literally just a battle cry and a way to combat those thoughts for me, and to be released from all that pressure and that the lies that were just swallowing me up from just the sins that I was committing during that time. So yeah, what you read is just right on point.
I love that is such that resonates, Eppic, with people. And because there's a story of redemption in you finding your voice. There's a story of sonship in you finding your voice. You're overcoming that voice within us that's condemnation, that says you don't deserve this, that you're a fraud, you're a phony, whatever it was saying to you. And through this process, I love that. I'm thinking about Romans 8:19, that says that creation itself is waiting for us to walk as sons. It's waiting for redemption. It's waiting to see what Jesus is going to do in the life and the heart of somebody who's really seeking after him. And so as you express yourself in worship, besides the fact that I already love you because you got my friend Hutch here to rap, I've never actually seen that happen before.
You know what?
I've never seen that before.
No, we're going to talk about the chorus here in a minute.
Oh, God.
You're going to do a little beatbox for me?
The viewers right now can't. We got to ease into that with you.
Sorry.
Okay, so let's just ease into it. But now that said, Eppic, I want to know, because it feels like, man, you're coming into your own in terms of you know who you are now. You know what your voice is. You know you don't need that story, right? But your story is actually, I mean, you're speaking out of a heart that is just like genuine and authentic, and I love that because it comes across even in this conversation. What's next for you? What do you have bubbling up on the horizon?
So next is continuing. So I call it Dethroned season. It's just like, you know how pastors always have like their series with their sermons, how they're like, we got this series that's going to last this amount of time. I like taking that approach when I work on my music. And so I felt that before this, I had a project that I was working on that was like the identity series for me. And so this one is the Dethroned series, but next up is a new song that I have called Never Cease to Amaze Me. And it's taking everything that I was just sharing with you and really putting it into, summarizing it all into one piece where it's just saying, even through all these different things that has happened to me and that I've gone through, God, you never cease to amaze me. And I wrote that song, I was pretty much couch surfing. Like I didn't have a place to really call my own for about 9 months when I was in LA, just due to different things. And I woke up on my friend's couch and that phrase just came into my head. And that was about 4 years ago when that phrase came into my head. And so now the song is finally done and I am so excited for people to hear it just because I think I'm not saying it's my favorite song just so people can be like, oh, well, he said it's his favorite song, so let me go listen to it. I genuinely believe it's the best thing that I've written. And it's because of all these situations that has allowed this song to be able to become what it is now. And so I can't wait. Like that's literally the best way I can put it. So
let's talk about, man, your platform, because God's positioned you in a very unique place. He's positioned you into a music format that is controversial. It's got a lot of texture to it. Let's just put it that way. And God's put you in the middle of that format, that music format, with a gift that you've been given, with a very specific message. Man, we talked about that, your challenge of, man, I didn't grow up in the projects and I didn't go through some of the things that some of these guys did, but yet I have a unique voice, I have a unique message. You now integrate very powerfully, I want to add, into the message and, you know, the message of Christ and your faith. What kind of doors have you seen open up for yourself to share the gospel in whatever format that might look like? What's that look like for you on this journey so far?
Yeah, so I'll start here. So the moment where I knew that this is kind of the direction that I wanted to take, because I battled with, do I go secular or do I stay like within just the Christian world? But the thing is, to me, and I think, for instance, who's doing a great example of that is Lecrae and Eminem. I think they've just paved the way for a lot of Christian rappers to say, hey, you can go mainstream. You don't have to, like, the message still remains, and you can still work with even mainstream artists, even if you're a Christian rapper. And so there was a moment, so back, again, I don't know what year, but I opened up for Jason Derulo back like when I graduated high school. And there was a song called, what was it called? That's bad. I can't remember what it's called. But anyways, when I got off stage, I remember this girl coming up to me and she says, you literally are in the club and you're rapping about God. And I was like, yep. And she's like, I love that. And she's like, continue doing that. And I just knew that it's possible to be able to do it. Because it's not like you're hitting, my approach is, I'm not trying to hit people over the head with scripture, because I know there's going to be listeners, and I know because people leave me comments saying, hey, I don't believe in God, but I can get with this. And I think that's powerful, because the fact of the matter is, I think when we stuff too much scripture, it turns people away. And our whole thing is, yes, like, I do want to communicate to other Christians, because I know a lot of them might be dealing with pornography or drugs or whatever it may be. So they also need to have chains broken as well. But also through my music, I believe that I still need to communicate to those who don't know God. And that's important to me. And so I'm making sure that whenever I construct my songs and put everything together, is that I want to at least have like a few droplets in there where they think that they're just listening to just maybe a mainstream song, but they're actually listening to scripture, and they're the gospel that's within this song that's driving this song. And they might be turning it up and putting it on repeat, and they don't know that the seed is being planted, and hopefully that grows into something else later. Only God knows on that one. But that's just been my approach in creating music. And I've just seen doors open in terms of that, to where I'm able to like play on clubs. I'm able to collaborate with different artists, even through YouTube. Like, my whole thing that I loved is collaborating. And it's been cool, because just staying true to that message, people just gravitate towards what I'm doing. And so I can reach out to like a YouTuber if I'm a fan of them, and just be like, hey, let's do something. And it's not like I'm trying to force anything at all. But when you collaborate with them, knowing that their fan base may not know who God is, and then I come in with a verse with a little bit of that, that's just ways that the doors have been opening for me. So.
That's great, man. That's great strategy for the kingdom. I love your tagline. I was checking out your website. Be a light, speak truth, change lives, man. And God is positioning you to do that. Hey, as we're wrapping up here, just our last few minutes together, we're excited, obviously, about you joining the pursuit and being a part of what we're doing. Just real quickly, wrap up for our viewers and our listeners. What excites you about moving forward with us, and what do you hope happens in your involvement with the pursuit?
Yeah, what I'm stoked about is just to be able to, one, it's just another opportunity to be able to expand the kingdom. And it's just what you guys communicated to me the other day when we got on and we all met up, just hearing the heart behind just bringing different artists in, different platforms in, knowing that each one of us have our own fan base and everything like that, but we're collaborating with the sole mission of just people knowing God, but through a creative way. Just because I don't think that is being, to me, I haven't seen a platform that utilizes that, taking different ones. It's not just artists like myself. You also have like writers, speakers, pastors, everyone just coming in together into one hub, and to be able to push that out. I think that's going to be awesome. My thing that I'm looking forward to is the collaboration aspect of it. Bringing artists that may not know who the pursuit is, bringing them in, sitting them down, and then they can tell other people about the pursuit. And ultimately just seeing lives being changed through it. Because I think a message is about to be delivered that I think it's going to help a lot of people who might be struggling and thinking they're alone. And I think having so many different minds and artists and creators into one space, I think we're going to see a lot of lives being changed. Because last thing that I would like to add too is, because during this time, this year is crazy. We can all admit that. This year has been one wild year. And so with quarantine, what has been sitting on my heart is knowing that there's a lot of people, like an introvert myself, you could get caught in your head. And so when you're in your headspace, there's probably a lot of people who might be depressed, a lot of people who may be thinking of suicide, a lot of people who are just in a very dark spot, but where they gravitate towards is the internet. And so with something like this being created and being put out, I'm hoping that we can catch those kids and those people who are in that space, and for them to be, while they're laying in the bed scrolling through the phone, that they can come across the pursuit and they'll be like, wait a minute, what is this? And then that's all it takes. It's just going to be just maybe that one tweet or that one podcast that you released in order to change someone's life who might be in that space right now, especially in quarantine and the way this year's been. We need something like the pursuit out right now.
Amen. Well, that's a good word, man. And we're going to wrap up for today. And again, thanks a lot, Eppic, for joining us. We're excited about many more interviews just like this and to get to know you even better. Matter of fact, one of the things we're going to be talking about with you as we move forward is the issue of social injustice, and we're excited to really dive into that topic with you. And I was just thinking as you were talking, you know, one of the problems with the cultural differences and the racial differences that we have right now in America is we tend to get really closed-minded. You know, I get stuck in my rut, and others get stuck in their rut of watching the same thing, listening to the same thing, and we get closed-minded, man. And what excites me about what we're doing here with the pursuit is reaching out to young men like yourself and others, men, women, of all ages, of all different races that are going to be a part of this pursuit. It's going to help expose all of us and open our minds to a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different ideas, as John mentioned in the opening, a lot of different forms of worship. And so I'm excited to get to know you. I'm excited to expose you to a lot more people around the world, because they need to hear your story. They need to hear your message. And so, man, I'm just honored that you would choose to come alongside us and be a part of this. And we're going to have a lot more fun. We're gonna have you back on here really quickly to dive into many, many more topics that we want to discuss. So, Eppic, you're a good man, and I'm excited for you. God, you remember when you were 28 years old?
Oh man, I was, yeah, knucklehead.
That was a long
Christian
time ago.
knucklehead. That was after I came to Christ, but still a knucklehead.
I hear you.
And I tell you what, just to echo what Hutch said, those that are out there that maybe something that Eppic said that you want to learn more about him, Eppic, you have a YouTube channel out there as well, in addition to what you're going to be helping us out with the pursuit. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And he's going to be releasing some blogs from time to time, and just look for Eppic to be engaged on all of the platforms that we're on right now. And there's more out there, so go seek him out. He's a good man, and he's, like I said, going to be with us for the long run here, so we can't wait. Hey,
make sure you like us. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Right next to that subscribe, there's a little bell. Click on that. You'll get notified every time a new episode comes out. And we just launched our new website.
ThePursuitOnline.com is out and in prime time right now. And again, as I said before, you'll have on the home screen there presented with an option just to drop in your email address so we can stay in better communication with you guys. And there'll be tools and resources like the blog that I just mentioned that are out there that are not on the YouTube channel. So you want to make sure to stay tuned and check us out. Check it often.
Hey, we're gonna close out the pursuit today with a little bit more from Dethroned. You can get it just about anywhere you can buy music. So, Eppic, thanks again for joining us, my man, and we'll see you guys next time on the pursuit.
See ya.
I didn't grow up in the projects, but I'm still a work in progress. You want the product, not the process. Had to be broken down and cold pressed. I'm better than I ever been. I'm like no other. For the last few years I've been in the furnace. No longer the person with serpents wrapped around my jugular. Why me giving the microphone to jokes and fools go, but to chumps and wolves and sheep clothes? Would you give a toddler a load that pissed